we are going to start in Texas, the other team in Texas, the team in Texas that has a coach still, but is widely expected to not have a coach soon. Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, Jason Garrett were due to meet for the third time this week on Thursday. Per multiple reports, the meeting didn't happen, and then things got a little bit weird on Thursday night. Ed Werder of ESPN reported this, and this is what was in the tweet. We need to be very precise here. Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones have moved slowly and with abundance of care and respect for Jason Garrett. That phase expected to conclude soon, with Garrett not part of the organization. Next phase, to involve candidate interviews, will begin quickly thereafter. That's fine, that's fair, and that's consistent with the expectations that anyone who's paying attention to this would have. That it's expected that Jason Garrett is going to be gone. The only hard news in there is that they're moving slowly, not because they don't know what the hell they're doing, but because they are trying to show extra care and respect to Jason Garrett. But somehow that got warped and twisted into Jason Garrett has been fired, will be fired, is fired. That still hasn't happened yet. And until it happens, especially with this Cowboys team, with how goofy it's been the past 5 days, I'm not going to assume it's definitely 100% going to happen. I agree it's expected, but that doesn't mean it's happened. It doesn't mean it will happen. And until it happens, I'm going to sit back and wait for potential chaos, because of any team in the NFL, Big Cat, the Cowboys are the one that may deliver it for us.
I don't understand what's going on whatsoever, Mike. Why is this so hard for Jerry Jones to fire Jason Garrett? This is almost like, and it's a terrible thing to say, but it's like, when you get to the end of a pet's life and you have to put down a pet, and it's like, just have him hanging around the house and doing the Instagram picture. One last steak with Jason Garrett. One last ride in the car with Jason Garrett. What's going on? Why are they not just firing him? I'm just telling you the
that's
truth.
Horrible.
No, it's not. Mike, I'm saying how ridiculous this has become. That's a special moment. This shouldn't be a special moment. It should be, hey, Jason Garrett, thank you for your service. You were great. It's time to move on. Let's go about our business. Why is it so difficult for them to fire Jason Garrett? I don't understand it, Mike. I really don't. I guess it's respect for the position that Jason Garrett was always a good soldier and never fought back. I think that's really what it comes down to, is Jerry Jones is a little confused because he's, at times in the past, has had an adversarial relationship with his head coach. Jason Garrett is not that type of head coach, so he doesn't really know how to act at the last days of Jason Garrett. And you're right. I actually wouldn't be shocked, Mike, if tomorrow or Sunday, I've been saying all along that Jerry Jones is just waiting to do it during Wild Card Weekend so he can steal the headlines. But at some point in the next few days, if there's somehow a report saying Jason Garrett's getting one more year or he got a contract extension, would you be shocked? I wouldn't.
No. And yesterday, the speculation was, and Ed Werder, who put out that tweet last night, yesterday morning his tweet was, there are people in the organization who are beginning to wonder whether or not the Cowboys are trying to find a job for Jason Garrett. And I think that's reasonable speculation. See, when the team that is always open and transparent about everything all of a sudden clams up completely, it invites speculation. And I don't think it was all that unreasonable to say, hey, they must be looking for something they can do to keep this guy who's been part of the family for decades continuing to be part of the family. And I even went crazy off the charts yesterday suggesting the possibility of co-head coaches next year, Gary Kubiak and Jason Garrett. And I was kind of rooting for that. I want unconventional. I want craziness. I want something different than what the other 31 teams are doing because it's a good story and it's fun to cover. Now, I don't know how fun it is to cover this silence coming from Dallas, but it's definitely very Cowboys-esque for them to be giving us something we didn't respect. And look, that's all we're talking about. You've got vacancies in Cleveland, with the Giants, with the Panthers. Washington introduced their new head coach yesterday. We ain't talking about any of that. We're talking about what the hell are the Cowboys doing? Cowboys win again, except on the field.
No, it's true. Jerry Jones knows how to control the media. He knows how to make the Cowboys relevant, even if they're not winning on the field. We're sitting here getting ready for Wild Card Weekend, and the Jason Garrett, firing, unfiring, conscious uncoupling, whatever is going on in Dallas, it becomes a story, and now we're talking about it. And so the whole thing, Jason Garrett being in the front office, Mike, That's crazy to me. Could you imagine if you're the new coach that shows up and you have to, first thing you do is meet the old coach who's still there? Talk about an awkward situation that is now more dysfunctional somehow than it was before when it was just Jason Garrett's the coach. He's not a good coach, but we're going to keep him as the coach. This whole thing is just hilarious to me, and I'm with you. I'm rooting for chaos. I want Jerry Jones to coach the team. Why doesn't Jerry Jones just be the offensive coordinator? Have Jason Garrett do all the, keep the sideline together. Jerry Jones, you sit up in the booth, you call the plays, and maybe Chris Christie will be your defensive coordinator. Have it be that. Let's just get crazy with it.
In some seriousness, though, don't sleep on the possibility of Gary Kubiak. That name has just kind of been percolating a little bit. Now, he left the Broncos 3 years ago because he couldn't be a full-time head coach for health reasons. But whether it's Jason Garrett as co-head coach or Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones running interference with the media obligations or having a robust coaching staff that will allow Gary Kubiak to have a very narrow and focused job, don't rule out the possibility of that kind of an effort to kickstart a team that is ready to win. There's been so much talk about college coaches for the Cowboys job, and it was about 3 weeks ago that Jerry Jones threw water on that by saying you're going to have a learning curve if you hire a college coach. I think they want somebody, Big Cat, who can come in and win right now, and someone with NFL coaching experience is in a better position to win now than someone who's never coached in the NFL before.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I never really understand the hot name college coaches. Sure, there's a couple guys in college right now that I could say, you know what, that guy probably makes sense to eventually end up in the NFL. But I've thought, at least in the last decade, it doesn't feel like it was beforehand. Remember back in the day when it was truly you're good in college and then you step up to the NFL? I think a lot of the recent hires come from NFL staffs, come from guys who have had that, who have been there, been in big games, in NFL games. And so to go hire a college coach, which is drastically different running a college program than running an NFL team, that's why the Urban Meyer talk. I mean, Urban Meyer would actually be perfect in Dallas because they deserve each other. Jerry Jones and Urban Meyer both love headlines. Let's just do that and make the ultimate headline and have it be a walking, talking circus every single week.
But see, that's the thing. Jerry Jones doesn't want an Urban Meyer because an Urban Meyer may not be comfortable with Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones being the focal point of the attention. They need to find another Jason Garrett. Maybe that's one of the reasons why they are taking so long to move on from Jason Garrett. They're appreciating that they had a coach who let them do whatever the hell they wanted to do all those years and wasn't like a Bill Parcells or a Jimmy Johnson who wanted to take over. Go ahead, Jerry. Do whatever you want. I'm just the coach. And it's hard to find a guy who you can trust to be a good head coach who is willing to let someone else basically hold the reins and run the wagon while you're just a piece of a broader machine. And, another tweet Ed Werder had last night that I think is intriguing. He said this: one thing people should know regarding the Cowboys' deliberate and confusing process, Jerry and Stephen Jones would not be operating in this manner if they had any indication they were risking head coaching candidates they desire most to other teams. In other words, all these other names that are currently under consideration for the Giants, Panthers, and Browns jobs, those aren't names the Cowboys want. I want to take it another level farther. I believe they already know who they're going to hire. I think this 5 days and counting tells us they know exactly where this is going to go when it moves on from Jason Garrett. Now, that doesn't mean they know it's exactly one guy, but maybe it's down to 1, 2, or 3. But I think they know where they're heading, and they know who they're going to get, and it's just a matter of checking boxes, complying with the Rooney Rule, creating the impression they're doing a real search, even though behind the curtain, they know what's next.
Yeah, that tweet makes a lot of sense, and it's a good point because the Cowboys do have the luxury of being the Cowboys in this sense where it's going to be the number one job just because of the national media exposure. We talk about it with Dak Prescott. What's the implied value of being the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys? There is some. And if you don't at least acknowledge that, then you're just lying to yourself. Because guess what? As much as, the Browns can win more games next year than the Cowboys, but being the head coach of the Cowboys still means more just in a national perspective. You're going to be on national TV more. You're going to play Sunday Night Football against the Eagles and Giants 3 times a year, whatever it is. You're going to be seen more as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Mike, I want to go back real quick, though, to the idea that Jerry Jones, the reason why they're having so much trouble finding the new guys, they can't find someone like Jason Garrett. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe Jason Garrett goes up into the front office. He helps in the coaching search. they interview a bunch of guys, and then they sit around and they have that moment where they're like, you know who would be great for this job? Me, Jason Garrett. And then they just rehire Jason Garrett. I think that's where this is all going.
That's the thing. Until it's actually done, everything has to be on the table. And everything is on the table, I believe. I mean, it is so strange to have an organization that has been so open for 30 years shut up completely and give us no indication of what's coming next. And that takes a level of discipline that I didn't think Jerry Jones had. I didn't think he could help himself. Maybe he can help himself. Maybe that's the big takeaway. It all has been a ruse. He's been a carnival barker for the last 30 years who's fully and completely in control of his mouth. And when he chooses to shut up, he can. This is just the first time in 3 decades he's actually chosen to shut up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the whole thing is so crazy. Halftime, what do you think? Halftime of the wild card game? Halftime of maybe the Sunday afternoon game is when they'll announce it so they can steal all the maybe Jerry Jones will come in like he'll airdrop in, he'll parachute into the Philadelphia Stadium.
Like Fan Man.
To the link. Yeah, it's like Fan Man and just be like, hey, I got my new head coach. Let's go. Everyone talk about this.
I don't think they even have to do it during any of the games. They can show respect to the games. They can do it after the games end, and it'll still be the top story Monday morning, just like it is. As we're getting ready for 4 playoff games, we have spent the last 14 minutes talking about the Dallas Cowboys vacancy that still isn't even officially a vacancy yet.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.